being placed upon you. And that is the responsibility of maintaining this legacy of this service, taking it forward and ensuring that you contribute more to the service than you get out of it. Now, unlike when Mr. Prakash Chandra and I joined the service, today's world, today's polity, today's public is very demanding. They are most unforgiving. There is not a single mistake that you can afford to make which will go unnoticed. And I'm fond of saying that when you join government, you seat yourself into a glass house. You are being watched from everywhere. Every action of yours is under scrutiny, and it is most unforgiving because you make one mistake, and that one mistake will find yourself onto a television screen or onto the first page of a newspaper. So it has to be very demanding. Now, it is in this context that I propose to place before you the proposition that government service, despite all that I just mentioned, is most satisfying, and that you can contribute to it positively by innovating in any job that you are posted to. That there is a symbiotic relationship between a tax administration and a government auditor, and I would also like to end by sensitizing you to the fact that you cannot share the responsibility of giving to the generation next any administration which is any way less than what you have inherited. In Arthashastra, while elaborating on taxation, Kautilya had mentioned that the power of government depended upon the strength of its treasury. And the Director General has just mentioned that from 47 crores to 4,37,000 crores is the power of the treasury of Government of India today. He regarded revenue and taxes as the earning of the sovereign for the services and facilities extended by it towards maintaining law and order and things of that kind. That is why when the British took over from the British government, or the British monarch took over from the East India Company, one of the first departments it established was the Income Tax Department, and that is why you are celebrating 150 years of a completion. Now, we all need to be proud of this country. In the last 8 to 10 years, this economy has delivered a 9% rate of growth. Even when the so-called financial tigers of the globe were reeling under the financial meltdown, all that our economy did was from 9 to 10% growth, we came down to 6.5% growth. That is when other countries were facing negative growth. So the private sector in this country has become very resilient, very powerful, and very contributing. Now, it is dependent upon you and me today to ensure that government provides the infrastructure, both physical and financial, to incubate this growth, to facilitate this growth, and to ensure that this growth goes unhindered. And that is why I say that the economic fundamentals of this country are very strong today. The high growth rate, macroeconomic stability, and a stable policy regime which is ensuring that there is enough domestic foreign capital inflows into the country to facilitate growth. So let not anyone in the private sector ever fault us for not being able to rise up to the occasion to ensure that the growth which the economy is seeking is in any way not facilitated by our actions. Now, I would like you to reflect on the fact that you, the government, and from the economist's perspective, taxation serves not only as a source of revenue, but also as a policy instrument which gives signals to the economy to address the efficiency and equity issues. Now, it is in this context that we need to look at the role of officers as facilitators. To be a facilitator, we need to familiarize ourselves with the latest trends in development, environment, and other aspects which have a bearing on the process of governance. And that is why we need to keep upgrading our skills from time to time. When you go to conduct a study or when you do an assessment of any income tax SSE, he is advised by just about the best brains in the country, who is the chartered accountant. If you have to see whether there is an avoidance or an evasion, whatever it is, you have to be better than that best brain. And that is why I compliment the National Academy of Direct Taxes, which provides you the conceptual foundation from drawing from global best practices. This is the repository of collecting best practices globally, worldwide, and trying to ensure that you imbibe those best practices and provide you state-of-the-art professional skills, which means you keep upgrading it from time to time, and also to ensure that cultural and environmental sensitivities are also inculcated into you. Most importantly, to ensure that you are citizen-centric in the sense that the man on the street, the common man, does not either feel intimidated or hate entering a government office. And that's why I have a small difference of opinion with Shri Prakash Chandra. He said that people should not be scared of the income tax officer. Sir, they are not scared of the income tax officer. They are very scared of the income tax officer. And believe me, modern day mothers don't put their children to sleep by saying that the policeman is coming. They only have to say the income tax officer is coming. And all children promptly go to sleep. So, but a modern day administrator, a tax administrator like anybody else, has to be a good learner. And that is why I said, you learn from experience of others. You learn by making maybe mistakes in good faith by yourselves, but you have to, from any one of these mistakes that you mean, keep improving yourself and coming out that much stronger. Most of you have been very innovative. Your senior officers have brought about newer strategies and to minimize exemptions, to ensure that the problems of ambiguity in the tax laws, and to ensure that tax evasion loopholes are removed. Now, it is today's public and today's media, today's parliamentarian, or any discerning man on the street who seeks transparency and accountability, which have become the buzzwords. Now, that is where an interface between the tax administrator and the auditor comes. I'm very happy to say that we in the audit department have found the income tax department to be very supportive, very cooperative. Nobody is free of mistakes. We all make mistakes. We take 10 decisions a day, 1 or 2 is bound to go wrong. But in case the auditor points it out, I have found the tax department to be very cooperative in accepting that yes, and we will immediately remedy the mistake. And the department has taken those remedial measures, which has been our experience. But today, I'm very grateful to Dr. Madhavan Nair for the first time confessing that auditors have such a major role to ensure that rocket launches become successful. Sir, if it was one set of audit paras which drove Dr. Kalam to the then CAG, I can assure you, to make future generations of rocket launches more successful, I'll send you more audit paras which will ensure that you make rockets, more launches more successful, and you are better than the developed nations of the world today. Now, in the process of looking at public life, you will see, as I mentioned earlier, that the public is becoming more and more intolerant about mistakes that you and I make. There is a tipping point in what we can say of corruption in public life. And there is always a threshold level beyond which the public will not be able to tolerate us or tolerate even the politician in that life. And I sincerely feel that that tipping point has come. There is always a flashpoint, there is always a watershed, there is always a threshold level. In countries, whether it was France or Russia or whichever country that you can think of, even modern day democracies, where it is such behavior on behalf of the government and government officials which have brought about revolutions. And I think I was very happy when I heard you take the oath today to say that you enter government service with the intention of ensuring that you make a positive contribution to it. Public confidence in government today is at abysmally low levels. And I don't think we can permit this to go on further. You and I have the responsibility of ensuring that corruption in public life in general and civil servants not being mindful of their duties in particular, that issue is no longer in usage in another 2 to 3 years' time, when you will find, why does the public at large or media call us babus? Why? Because the word babu has become associated with something which has a certain inertia attached to it. Something which does not let any positive action unfold and move rapidly ahead. And that is why the fact that what was known as the steel frame of this country, which delivered over the last 50 to 60 years, is now being talked about as a bureaucracy which has only become a stumbling block today. Now, that is why there is a certain element of cynicism in civil services. That cynicism is inside us and it is also in society looking at us. And I think we have a very major responsibility thrust upon each one of us today, and especially upon you, people like Mr. Prakash Chandra and I. We are now at the winters of our career, we are moving away. You may say that we have not contributed our but on you rests the responsibility of ensuring that the Indian civil services go back to the glorious days that they were around the years of independence. Now, none of us, you will find, it's no use any one of us saying that there is a certain black sheep. Nobody in government is running an individual race. We are all parts of a team. And the team can be only as good as the weakest member of that team. So you as team member, as team player, as team leader will have to ensure that that weak member, weak in any respect, his level gets raised and he delivers, he performs as any one of you who are strong members of that team. You must look upon the man on the street, the common man, with a certain element of compassion. Do not in any way impede his self-respect or his dignity. Whether it is a high-end taxpayer or he is a low-end taxpayer, whatever it is, he has a certain self-respect. And it is very important, as the Director General and the member CBDT mentioned, for us government officials sitting in seats of power, those seats which not only give power, they impose upon a certain responsibility to ensure that we come across with him as man to man. We give him that much of respect as he gives us, so that when he leaves that government office, he goes back with a sense of fulfillment. You may not professionally be able to satisfy him on his tax issues, but please send him back as a friend, so that he does not look to government, he does not look to you and me as somebody whom he would not like to associate in social life. So I do not at this point of time want to say more, but in conclusion, I would like to sensitize you to the fact that on you rests this onerous responsibility of upgrading governance. Let not history fault you for not having lived up to this task assigned to you today. And let posterity not judge you for having failed to make your contribution, or for making your contribution to the might of this country when the opportunity was presented to you. And let not public confidence in government officials dip any further from the abysmal levels at which it is now today. With these words, I congratulate the 64th batch for having entered government. I know you have a very bright career before you. I wish you all the very best, and I thank the Director General and all the officials for giving me this opportunity to be amongst you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring speech, laced with wisdom and humor. Your advice on how to have compassion and teamwork, strength and moral fiber is highly motivating. It is said that the easiest way for evil to take over is for good men to do nothing. In your address, you have defined what we are and what we should be, and where we should take this country. And I assure you, sir, that we shall overcome all inertia and cynicism, and will put our heart and soul in bringing this great nation of ours to the epitome of greatness. I now request Shri Gigi Shukla, Director General of NADT, to felicitate the Chief Guest and the Guests of Honor by presenting them with mementos. Now I request Shri N. Shankaran, ADG1 NADT, to propose a formal vote of thanks.
No duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. One can pay back the loan of gold, but one dies forever in debt to those who are kind. Distinguished Chief Guest, Controller and Auditor General of India, respected Guest of Honor, Distinguished Professor and former Chairman of ISRO, respected Member Personnel and Vigilance, Central Board of Direct Taxes, beloved Director General NADT, my colleague Additional Director General, Course Coordinator and Associate Course Coordinators of the 64th batch of IRS Induction Course, other distinguished invitees, representatives of the press and media, officer trainees of the 63rd and 64th batch of IRS, faculty members, ladies and gentlemen. On the occasion of the inauguration ceremony of the induction course for the 64th batch of Indian Revenue Service, on behalf of NADT team, it's my privilege and pleasure to propose a vote of thanks. At the outset, on behalf of NADT, I extend a very warm and profound thanks to our chief guest for having acceded to our request for the inauguration of the induction course of 64th batch of IRS in spite of his pressing engagements. Sir, in the inspiring and keynote address, you have clearly outlined important factors required and the guidelines to the path forward for being efficient, effective, true civil servants and tax administrators. The rich and valuable inputs shared with us today would significantly enhance our vision, thoughts, and actions. Your words of advice, erudition are a source of encouragement. Sir, we assure you that we would make all endeavors to imbibe the essence of your message and ceaselessly work towards providing efficient taxpayer services with utmost dedication, sincerity, and commitment. On behalf of Team NADT, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our respected guest of honor, Padma Vibhushan Dr. G. Madhavan Nair, for having come from Bangalore and delivering special address and igniting the minds of the young officers of the 63rd and 64th batch of IRS. Sir, we are very confident that the young officers of the 63rd and 64th batch of IRS will be inspired by your message and pursue their career with hope, enthusiasm, and in a positive direction that would take them to greater heights. I would like to express my profound thanks to our honorable member from Central Board of Direct Taxes for having come from Delhi and delivering special address. Sir, your address has been thought-provoking and motivating to the officers who have joined IRS. We are confident and we look forward to the service with fresh and positive ideas and with brighter hopes for the future. Sir, we look forward to your continued support and guidance in our efforts towards making NADT a training center